You didn't look ready. You don't look ready. Oh, is that an important step?
Trust me when I say, everything about how my face is right now is essential to keeping them in. It's essential to
I am aware.
I have to. Thing is, I can't remember if I've done that before or not on camera because I remember having the lenses. And I did. I swear I did something where I was wearing the orange suit. Do you remember the orange suit at all? Because I swear I did. I'm pretty sure I did something. I don't remember what it was though. But now I feel like I didn't.
When you did your interview for 1,000 levels, you
well,
switched it out
no, because
into the...
well, I didn't have the suit then. That was way before. Ages before I had
You switched out into something. Oh, what suit are we talking about? I've been thinking of the morph suit.
The orange suit. I had an orange suit. That's the thing. I don't think I actually used it. Do you remember I bought an orange suit? I ordered it and then I had to return it.
A little bit.
Yeah. All I'm saying is, I know they had a purple one, and I think there should come a day where we have to use those suits. I'll have to buy the orange one again. You have to get the purple one. And then I don't know. But that's what we'll do for, I don't know, 5 or 10,000. But it would literally be exactly the same as the video that we did for 1,000, except we're wearing those suits. That'll be the only difference.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Also, I don't appreciate that. Which one's that? I can't tell them apart.
It's the same one.
Echo?
Yeah.
I don't appreciate these here because what no one is going to know, obviously, is that Echo spent, I don't know, literally about 40 minutes lying on Tyler's chest, which completely and utterly prevents us from recording. It's completely impossible. And once again, I do hate the way what his tail does. It goes like over his back. I hate it. He's like an anglerfish, and I find it despicable.
The despicable anglerfish luring
the nefarious anglerfish. That's what Echo. I really hate it. It looks like it's like a gear stick. I just want to like grab it and go. I do that to my cat, and she doesn't mind which is pretty cool because my cat, she lets me do that kind of thing, but no one else can get away with it. She would attack anyone else. It is pretty cool having that kind of hold. Yeah, but do you though? Do you even know? Does your mother, for example, manipulate them physically?
Oh no, I'm definitely their favourite. That's a known fact.
Yeah.
Like, Echo doesn't really even bother with anyone else. He
I think
runs
it's
up to me whenever
I think it's because cats gravitate to podcasters.
Yeah, I think that's how it works. Like he really is only giving me this attention because he knows that I'm a co-host of a incredibly popular and professional podcast.
I like how right now
Am I right?
we're really pissing that one guy off. You know who you are.
Yeah, well, I guess welcome to the Barrel Vision podcast. We're back after a while, right?
Yeah, we're back after a hiatus, and by hiatus we just mean the new standard gap between podcasts. But it's like long enough, and I don't think we're gonna like shorten it yet. I think the idea was if we're gonna bring it back to bi-weekly, and in this case bi-weekly means every other week. If we're gonna bring it back to that, it will be actually when Roke was out. If we're gonna do that at all, we're not. I think that's the idea, as far as when we changed from every week and then to bi-weekly and then to this, which is technically tri-weekly, I think is correct.
8 times a week.
Yeah, The weirdest, it gets weird when it's like you can't actually pin it down to a specific number of episodes per month, because it could be one or it could be two potentially per month, which is kind of cool. But what that does is that just about represents the actual amount of stuff that, you know, we get to talk about just based on current events. Just about. Even then, we are injecting a little bit of you know, artificial material into this, or will be towards the end. Keep your knees out the camera. Keep your knees out of frame. I'll fucking kill you.
Yeah, I'm like miles away. You can't kill me with your mind.
Fucking dropped him. Hold on. This is worth it for physical comedy. I actually really want to get a picture of myself like that now in the thumbnail. I think it'd be worth it. Yeah, anyway, welcome back to the Evaluation Podcast properly. And that's it. Thanks for watching.
Eat Rock Galactic.
I shouldn't be funny because we actually have we have stuff to talk about. Not like insane stuff. Some pretty cool stuff as far as implications go, though, actually. Which we'll get into both. There's a couple of different things. It's a veritable variety pack, much like a box of celebrations. What's your favourite celebrations, Tyler? Or heroes? You can pivot to heroes.
I don't know. I don't know what they are. I don't know them off by heart enough. One of those two is the ones with just the plain galaxy in them. Whatever that one is that one.
Well, that's celebrations.
Cadbury's.
Well, it was I think it was proven.
A chunk of chocolate.
It was proven like time and time again with the Heroes one, for example, that basically the plain just Cadbury's milk chocolate chunk is like the most popular one by miles, like by a shitload. And so they made like they made one where it's just those. And I don't think they do it anymore.
Is it called a chocolate bar by any chance? Like a Cadbury's chocolate bar? Is that?
Well, you see,
that's
the thing about it is, yes, but actually no, because they still did this other thing where they were in little wrappers, and I kind of get it. It's kind of nice because it means
you needed more plastic.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, we needed more.
They didn't wrap all of the tiny pieces of chocolate instead of just wrapping up a big one.
I just heard something metal. I heard something metal fall on the floor, like somewhere in the house.
Someone's trying to kill you. They have a metal weapon.
Someone's always trying to kill me.
So what do we have to talk about? What's at the beginning of a book where it's like page 3 introduction, page 2 pre-introduction.
It's called well, I think it's technically called an index. No, is it?
Then that.
Is it also the index at the end?
Which one's a gallery? No, wait, that's
gallery. Well, I mean, okay, I think no matter what, it would be called a contents page. You could call it an itinerary or an agenda.
Yeah.
The agenda in 4 short words is Rocktoberfest, a patch, a newsletter, and questions. In 4 short phrases. So let's start with the first one, because that's how you meant to do these things, and I think that's completely fair because, of course, what can we really say about not Oktoberfest, Rocktoberfest?
I'm surprised it took them like multiple goes round to think of that, right? But you would have thought if they were willing to change the name of the celebration, that they would have done it a while ago. So it really begs the question that they did just think of it like recently. They're like, holy crap!
It's like, whoa!
Guess what I just thought of? And everyone's like, what? Rocktoberfest.
It's like when It's like that classic
Oh,
story of James Cameron pitching Aliens.
is
Do
it?
you actually not know that? Do you know about that? You might have heard it.
You just say, what if we have more than one? And
Well,
then
well, specifically what he did, he basically in the pitch room he just wrote word alien on the board, then the S for aliens because that's what the film was called, but he turned the S into a dollar sign, and I think that's how he got like the green light basically to make the movie. That was whoever it was who came up with Oktoberfest. What it actually was just a bunch of fans, and I think that's kind of neat. You know, it shows that we still have as a collective we still have some influence over what's going on there.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah, it was a fan. It's
well,
just a constant fan suggestion. People calling it Oktoberfest.
right.
Which is I don't know. It's kind of neat. I'm not too worried. I'm not too worried. Basically, when it comes down to whenever there's an event, thank God we don't do what we used to do, which was an episode where it would be like Oktoberfest review, because basically all it's going to be is, does the hat offend me or not? And the short answer is no. It's not terrible. It's actually not terrible at all.
It's all right.
Yeah, it still suffers from the same issue that they all suffer from, but except more so because this is one that is actually it would be silly no matter what, is what I said, but it's still technically more silly than it needs to be. And this is just me wanting to basically that part of my brain that's constantly wanting to scrounge as much value out of the game as possible, but when it's not really needed. Because it's like the hat is the closest thing we have to like a steampunk cosmetic, but it's got sausages in it, which kind of spoils.
And is
spoils
technically like a trombone, or not technically a trombone. I don't know what the curly ones are.
A tuba. Is that the curly one?
Be a,
I think I got it.
I think.
I think I'm right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is nicely coloured. We normally say about that, it is the bog standard like gold that they use.
It's like
which I say bog standard. They changed it like 3 separate times.
It's like
gold.
brass is almost what it is, where it's like a darkish gold, isn't it? It's kind of like the brass colour. So it does actually look like a real musical instrument.
Matches current gold, which does mean it is usable for a fair amount of like color schemes, which is not often the case, especially for Oktoberfest. And it's got a pretty bad hit rate, Oktoberfest.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah. The only good thing about Oktoberfest in general is
got a uniform,
beer,
but that's not great.
No, well, I don't use that to elevate it at all. What we should do is immediately lead this into that kind of neat thing that you mentioned to me yesterday, that you heard while listening to the stream. This is your thing. On the Weekly Planet podcast, they have a thing which is Meso's one bit of news, where the other guy has one bit of news that he brings every week. This is your one. Do you even remember?
Like
you heard something kind of neat on the stream about to do with these events, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, someone asked the devs on the dev stream, "Hey, can we get a pirate hat?" Because humans want pirate hats. I think it's in our blood. And they were like, "You think that'd be cool? We can't do it next." Summer event because we've already made the hat for that. Or I think more specifically, they've already got a design for it. I think is what they've said. So, but I think the moral of the story is they already seems to be like a year ahead design wise.
Well, I mean, yeah,
good in a competence way, but also bad because we want the fucking pirate hat. Give us a pirate hat, please. Pirate hat, me want. Okay.
It means they can save it for the next one. In 2026, the next summer event.
Oh, you can't say stuff like that.
I know it's so gross, isn't it?
Basically, going to add it to season 6 at that point.
Well, yeah. I mean, why not? Why not? I mean, I definitely want I definitely want a beard. I mean, there's so many great beard ideas you could get from looking at sort of pirate related media. Really, like I mean, I'm thinking of Davy Jones, which would be horrifying. I don't know how you would actually translate that in a way that works with a game where you're not already a fish
He's got a
monster. You know,
headgear.
it would be a full headgear, would it?
Well, we just got the squid one from last one. Or actually, was it an octopus? I think technically.
Well, yeah, okay, it was, but it's also on the head. I want a tentacle beard,
Okay,
or the
we'll
one
add that for you.
one. Thank you, or the one from the Sea of Thieves guy, where it's like bomb fuses,
Little bit,
isn't it?
all that. In this Blackbeard, he used to set his like beard on fire. And this is not One Piece Blackbeard. This is real one.
Well,
real
we've
fella.
got that actually, haven't we? They added one with the little flame on the end. So that's not bad, is it? Which yeah, but to me that stuff comes across as very One Piece anyway. I don't know why.
That's a real person who did that.
Honestly, especially the mustache with the little flames on the end. That I don't know. To me, is for some reason.
This is season 5 cosmetics because I've not seen that.
Yes,
Is that
they are.
like...
They are. They're both are.
Oh.
Yeah, and they're pretty. Which makes you wonder, why didn't we get a pirate hat there? Because a pirate hat definitely is not the kind of thing that needs to be saved for summer. In fact, I definitely don't want a pirate hat to be saved for an event because that means it's going to be worse than it could be.
It'll be made out of felt instead of looking good. But also, you know, I mean, I guess if they've got next thingy coming up, then they've got Halloween. But pirates are a very valid Halloween.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you sort of run into the danger though of crossing wires with the supporter pack helmet thing. Because I would love, like, I think everyone would love like some kind of. You mentioned skeletons actually, didn't you? As in Halloween will be the next event, and it's also like the only one where we actually would care to see a costume added for it, because
Which I think on that, remember how we kind of get a costume a year, kind of.
I mean, so we've only got 2 so far, but it felt like
It never said it, but it was. We got the Christmas one, and then next year we got the Oktoberfest one. But both of them were kind of for separate reasons. It feels like the Oktoberfest one wasn't that them bringing it back.
No,
or is
because
it a
that
year
was
off?
that was the previous year. Because I remember Oktoberfest was originally the first time Oktoberfest was brought back and became a mainstay was right before season 3 is when it happened. So it was that year, which is obviously 2 years ago. Now, obviously, that's not 2 years ago just yet. It's 2 years ago since that first Oktoberfest, since the long ago one, and that was like when they first started doing more with the events. It was when they brought Oktoberfest back, and they brought it back with the the beer mug basically thing, which started it, and that sort of started the trend. You know, that was kind of not evident in Halloween because obviously, if you remember the first Oktoberfest where they had that stuff in it. The beer mug mainly, the double performance point thing. The Halloween that followed wasn't different in any way at all. But then Christmas was. For Christmas they had both the elf thing in the caves, the chase, but they also had the elf costume and all the other stuff, like the pickaxe in the Bosco framework. And that kind of continued for every event after. They kind of had it in place. So like the Lunar Festival statue, then the trophy, and then the Easter thing with the bunny, all that kind of stuff. And then obviously the next Halloween was kind of in place. So yeah, last year it was technically the second regular Oktoberfest, and they happened to add the lederhosen outfit. But I think that is kind of how it works. So I wouldn't be surprised. And also, Halloween is it's kind of the best one to do costumes for because it feels the most justified for them to not be.
Well,
as like
my point kind of is,
as
if they are doing one this year, there's only Halloween left.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's true.
Like, so if it is a once a year kind of goal, then we're gonna get it Halloween, and if not, then that was never a thing, and they just randomly decided to do it for Oktoberfest. Which is a bit odd.
Yeah, but when obviously knowing that they have a design for like next summer, it doesn't actually tell us how far ahead they are. They could be further ahead than that, to be honest. And that's the kind of thing while I wouldn't expect it, it would also make perfect sense because it's something that is like pretty easy to do. And if I were them, I know that I would be like, let's just get these all done in like a week or two for like the next 5 years. Let's just bang them out.
Yeah, well, especially since they wouldn't want to be paying back attention to Deep Rock just to make a hat every so often. Getting it all out of the way while they're working on Road Core, so then they can just do it without looking at it, basically, right? So they can just publish it rather than make it.
But clearly the events obviously, even if no matter how much they've done beforehand, it still forces them to turn their attention somewhat back to Deep Rock, which was evident because it seems like that them having to turn their attention back briefly to implement the event is also the same reason why we got actually pretty cool patch the other week or last week or last week or the week before, which was season 5 patch 5, which yeah, it was implied in it. It was like this is adding some stuff for the event, but here's also a bunch of other things included. And the long and short of it is, we got a very, very small patch, but it still had things in it that they normally just don't put in patches of this size at all. Some actual smatterings of genuine, like, weapon tweaks, balancing, like changing Neurolasso on the smart rifle, changing its category, for example, which is something that barely ever happens anyway, let alone in a very small, out-of-the-way patch. And I don't think we need to we're not going to do a patch notes rundown or anything like that. We've already got a video, actually, a little bit on some of the changes directly, where we used them in practice, which has done pretty well, actually. So that's kind of cool. But what is especially cool is just for a random patch to do stuff like this. What I wonder and what I hope is that this is indicative of something for the future, or maybe not even necessarily long term. I just sort of mean, like, in general, does it mean that there'll be more stuff like this, even if it's infrequent? I really hope so, but I find Ghost Ship too unpredictable at the moment to really say that it means that this is a new thing that they're doing. You know, I don't think it would be appropriate to say, oh, they're doing this now, or like every event or something. That's definitely something we brought up before, where it's like, why don't you use the events now to like be like micro updates or something as well? And they've technically done it once now. I just don't know if this is setting some kind of precedent or not, and there's no way of knowing until like it either happens again or doesn't happen again. So we're just kind of in the dark again, but only because we got something cool unexpectedly. So that was nice, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, kind of jump scare me.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's pretty sad that we're like, yo, a patch.
Well,
and, you know,
we're not really though. It's no.
biggest thing.
Just acknowledging that it's worth talking about because it is. It's not the same as as losing our minds over it. So I don't think we're going too far, but it's still worth pointing out because they actually did things of impact. Any patch of that size has never included any like genuine weapon tweaks, and it shows, I think, an actual acknowledgement that there's kind of always something to be done. You know, even if, just because their focus is on something else entirely, doesn't mean that like Deep Rock is in like a perfect place, even as far as weapon balancing goes. In fact, that's probably the main thing about it that kind of isn't 100% of where it needs to be for the game to be completely left alone. So the fact that they did anything at all fills my heart with warmth, basically, and joy. Even though they took a overclock that was pretty useless, and all they did was make it less of a downgrade, is really the long and short of the changes they made to Neurolasso. So but what that tells me is there's still more that could be done, even just with one of the things that they already made changes to in this patch. It's like you could do another patch and it could still be dedicated to Neo Lasso. So I don't. But do you think we can expect to like see more of these, or is it just like complete luck and just their unpredictable behavior in play again?
Is realistically, they probably didn't just add the Oktoberfest cosmetics, considering how close together, you know, Oktoberfest is to at least Halloween, and then really Christmas as well. Maybe not Christmas though, but
Maybe
at
not.
least Halloween. Chances are they probably added the Halloween cosmetics as well, right? They probably have already added them.
I mean,
Considering it would just be unless there's more than just a single mask. But if it's just a single mask, then chances are they made that and put that in already.
well, if we want to be super pedantic and take their like exact wording as law, I will actually read a little bit of this. Where in the post it says, "Hello, miners. We're preparing for fun events and included a number of bug fixes and weapon tweaks. Events plural." Which very small detail, but probably isn't inaccurate. That probably does speak to what you're saying, which, yeah. But I don't know what would cause them to make these changes.
We might not see one, obviously, Halloween, but I think by Christmas we would have gotten something a lot bigger by that point, right? I think is if we can hope that we're getting a dev stream around the same time.
Yeah,
that would be nice.
Well, I mean that's important to talk about because sort of the main topic that I wanted to have for the podcast, and I use the word main topic somewhat loosely. What I really mean is just something that's what I really mean is it's just a discussion point that's injected sort of artificially almost, something to talk about that isn't just the things that are going on, something a bit more substantial. And that idea was a pretty simple one, but a very important one, which is, when are we going to hear some stuff about Road Core? We kind of have an idea of when it's supposed to be coming out. At the very least, we do for the, pre-alpha or the closed alpha. We also know that we're coming up on when it would have been released, which is kind of interesting. And what's kind of weird is that we're not actually there yet. It almost feels like we should have gotten past that original release date, if you know what I mean. Because it was originally November this year. It feels like we should have gotten past that already, based on it being delayed.
Even if it wasn't delayed, we still wouldn't have gotten it yet.
Yeah, but if it somehow... Think about it. You do have to think, though, if it somehow wasn't delayed, we would still be in the thick of it now, though. There would be so much on display and, like, marketing and things like that. So we wouldn't be, like...
Well, not really. Closed alpha, right? Would be out.
No.
No.
I think you're actually misremembering how much they overestimated themselves. The closed alpha was originally planned for the first quarter of this year.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're actually like a year behind.
Well, no. Well, see, not objectively. The closed alpha, yes, but that time still means the early access will probably be ready earlier in relation to the alpha, though. Which is why I don't think it's going to be November next year for the actual release. I think that's definitely not. I think it's definitely going to be earlier than that. But the closed alpha has probably been going to be a full year since they expected it to come out.
But why though?
Maintenance updates.
why would the time between the two change? If they thought that's much, because it's not like a developmental thing, right? It's they want that amount of time to implement the changes that people see in the closed stuff. Oh no. So I don't see why it would change.
It's true, but they would still have so much more. Maybe it changing isn't right. It might just be better to think of it as just completely, just reoriented, the sort of the direction and the workflow. In that it's probably they're just obviously they're going to have way more done than they would have done, but it's almost not even worth thinking about the fact that it was going to come out at a different time, basically. But what we were getting at you brought up the stream. It's always a long-winded title for these things. It's an on the horizon broadcast, is what they're called. And of course we've gotten two so far. But what we haven't gotten so far is actually a repeat. So, for example, one happening at the same time as the first one did this year. It could happen. We don't know. But I want to bring up the fact that that very original one, which was the one where we first learned about Rokor's existence, that was announced a week ago today, actually. So,
Wow.
a week ago today, last year, is when we first found out about the broadcast. So, if there is one, it's almost definitely not going to be at the same time. It might be a similar time. It might be like a week later than it was last year or something like that. But at the same time, it might not happen at all. It's possible. They might not just be in the stage of... Because those clearly, for both of them, right, they had pretty big things to reveal. Let's be honest. Big announcements to make in terms of either details to reveal about upcoming things or just straight up information to tell us about where development is heading. The first one literally being the announcement of Rokor. The biggest thing that we learned from the last one, aside from just finding out a lot of Season 5 stuff, was mainly finding out that Rokor was delayed. And frankly, there not being one isn't a bad thing. Because it means they don't have any big shakeups to tell us about. You know?
I suppose. Like, I guess no news is good news when when we're like far away from when we want stuff. But there could also be some news. Like,
but there will be.
I guess it's like, what about some
Remember.
of the other games? Like, have they got like publishing stuff? Because if that starts like accumulating, then they're gonna have to talk about that. And they know they can't just talk about publishing because people don't care enough about that as a whole. Slip something else in there.
But it's like I don't know what they could talk about because what we know is happening starting from next week is also, is he making biscuits on your belly?
Yeah.
And this is my, aside from everything, this is my one bit of news, which is something that I learned from the stream, the Thursday stream, which was starting Monday. They're going to be starting back up again from long ago. So this is before our time, really. Starting the Ghost Ship newsletter again. Starting from next Monday, but that'll be a monthly thing. It's not every Monday. Written by the new... he's not that new anymore. Written by Aaron, who is the content writer at Ghost Ship. And that will literally be a thing where every month they will put out a newsletter that will contain not just news, but will primarily be devoted to actually just outputting new information and behind the scenes details on a monthly basis, which is a goldmine for us. We're going to be sitting pretty once that starts coming out, and obviously we're sort of right on the cusp of that actually happening. That'll literally be on Monday. Of course, I'll have to find out how you're actually meant to sign up for it. I don't think it's just going to be on the Steam page. But what that is, it's going to be a way for them to regularly output news, whether they have a lot to talk about or not. And in a way, that almost supersedes the need for a broadcast like those, unless they have something big they need to reveal, in a way.
Yeah.
At the same time, we've talked a lot about the concept of a dam break moment, specifically for Rokor, which would basically be the moment where it would still be long before the game comes out, but it's sort of the moment where what Rokor is finally kind of revealed to the people. And I always saw that as going to be like a pretty big moment, but I'm not sure if this newsletter comes out, the first issue comes out on Monday, and it like actually reveals like a lot of stuff about Rokor. It's almost like is that the right place to put it all? Is that going to be a big enough place to sort of show Rokor off?
Well, I think the thing is, it's not like they're trying to be that secretive in Rokor. I think it's just the problem of they'll be like, oh, in Rokor there are like eggs that explode, and then like when it actually comes out, they're not there because they got cut like a while ago. But because they announced it too early, they made a promise they couldn't keep, or that kind of thing. I think they're just trying to avoid that. they can't announce stuff that they don't know is going to be in the game, and the game's changing too much for them to be able to know what that is. I think that's the current situation. So once they're just close enough to where they're like, all right, all this stuff is like definite, because like the only things we know about it are really the stuff that is the foundational core of the game that they know they're adding, like the roguelike elements, right, and like all that stuff, the powers and all that. Um,
Yeah, and we
so
know a couple like small sort of concept things like Expedite, and what was the other thing? I guess just the concept of like the reclaimers and things like that. Sort of very basic sort of premise sort of related things. Things that are really just related to the premise of the game. That's kind of all we know. We do know a tiny bit about, for example, what they have been doing, which is things like fleshing out like the core spawn family of enemies, which sounds pretty cool. And there's every chance like the first issue of the newsletter would be something like really, because obviously when he talked about it, when Aaron talked about it, it wasn't like, oh, this is just going to be news upon news. It will, because behind the scenes, like details is not necessarily the same. It can kind of just be talking about what they're working on, not necessarily announcing something. Those two things are not inherently the same. And an announcement would be for something that you kind of know is coming or know is going to be in it, but it could just be talking about the process of creating them. But then that would be quite similar to Below Decks. So what I'm thinking about is how different they're going to be.
The below decks are probably going to become part of the newsletter. Realistically, I'd be
Maybe,
surprised
yeah.
if he's considering how I'll be honest. Rarely and scarcely we get below decks as is. If he's going to be doing this on top of that, then I'd be surprised if you know either will be consistent. Like the newsletter is guaranteed every month, and I feel like below decks is probably going to be the cost of that, uh, realistically. But also will probably conjoin. I don't know, but is that this Monday coming up? Like
Yes, actually.
2 days.
Yeah. Which kind of makes us puts us in a weird position. But puts this podcast in a weird position. Obviously this is something we would be talking about next time, for sure. And I don't know exactly how I'm gonna do it as far as because Aaron, fair warning here. I'm gonna be on that shit. Like a fucking moth to flame, basically. I just have to be, right? I'm not sure exactly how I'm gonna do like a video that covers the newsletter on the spot. Like who knows? It might be too long for me to reasonably read out, But I do know that every time there has been one, and then every time there's a podcast and there's been a newsletter that we haven't talked about, that's obviously going to be a significant part of every podcast going forward, which is, like I said, is very useful for us. So which is great. It means we get to spend time right now talking about the fact that we're going to have stuff to talk about. But
That's our favorite subject.
but it is cool though, because we actually know we're going to be getting something, and beyond that, we know we're going to be getting something in a regular like cadence as well. It's not just like, oh, it's not like when obviously the broadcasts are cool, but it's not like when you find out that you're going to be doing a broadcast next week, and like that's when you know you're going to get a bunch of information. We know we're going to get some stuff on Monday, and we also know that that's going to be repeated for every month going forward. So just having that knowledge, that sort of security of information, is something that they probably couldn't have done for a while, but it's something that has still been missing though. I don't think they could have done it before now. I think there's probably a reason. They're probably far enough along where they can finally start talking about stuff. But it's definitely something that feels like it's been missing, which is a regular cadence of information and communication from Ghost Ship about what they're up to. Which makes sense. When you're making a new game, you kind of just have to bury your heads in it, and just get on with it until you're ready to say stuff. But that's what I mean about sort of the dam break moment. It's going to be a dam break both for the community and for Ghost Ship when they finally start being able to reveal stuff about the game. And that's also just spoiled the game for anyone. If anyone's playing the game, that's just a reminder. about the game. Like really shitty, isn't
Yeah,
it? That's like a really shitty thing to do. It's like,
you fucking bastard. I didn't even realize I was playing the game, and then you made me lose it. All right.
mm-hmm.
I mean, all that we're risking through the topics, though,
I know
aren't we?
it's
Now, at
almost
this
too
point.
quick, isn't it? I mean, do you have anything you'd like to see from the newsletter? Not even necessarily. Well, it's kind of hard to even think of what you'd like to see, isn't it? But amount of substance, like how much is an idea? How much would be in it? And would it be like the same, roughly the same amount
definitely,
of content each time?
like reader interaction, and I don't mean like a word search. I mean more
Well, what?
like
Maybe why not?
like below decks, doesn't he? Normally, he's like, "Oh, and comment down below what you would like to hear next," and stuff like that. And as far as we could tell, it's really only influenced the Cave Generation one. That's the most recent, but like that's probably the only one where it's actually he made it because people kept requesting it. But like I don't know, be it the whole magazine or just a part of it, something specifically dedicated to what people want and what they ask for, like on the thing.
Yeah, honestly, if they could potentially be, well, I
It would
mean,
be nice.
oh, sorry, what?
Um,
Actually, I don't really caught that.
like a Q&A, it would be a version of
That's
this
exactly what I was going to say,
where
actually. So you wouldn't get that in the first
yeah,
issue, but like, would you? But you would. It would be
it's
like
like
at the bottom.
yeah, it's like maybe like 5 questions get answered, but they have to be like specific to people, I guess, around the office, right? Or like what it makes sense for. So like if it's like a cosmetic question, like why is there no steampunk cosmetics in the game? What the hell? Aaron would go ask whoever's stupid idea it is to not add it, and then get their response, and so on and so forth. The only problem with that is that they probably do enough Q&A as it is on the live streams, which Aaron is there for. Which I guess that's a good and a bad thing because it means he definitely
Um,
knows what people have
it's definitely no,
the
no.
most.
It's definitely a good thing that Aaron is on the live stream. I think that's actually probably intentional as well, for stuff like this. And I think this is what it's been
Yeah.
building up to as well. Sort of him being there has almost been building up to this. Like I could see Below Decks being dissolved or factored into the newsletter. I think the newsletter hopefully will be where it's at. It's going to be a real conduit for Aaron to funnel all of like the information, all of the ready information sort of kept within Ghost Ship that the people working on Rocore wouldn't necessarily think that is like wouldn't necessarily think to tell people about because it's not their job to. So hopefully Aaron will now be able to tap into, his true calling, which is basically acting as a conduit between the community and the developers. Because they've
I mean,
always
that's
been
kind
in touch, but they've never really had a true like in between guy though, in my opinion.
it's what they implied, like when he was hired, right? Like when they announced that they were going to be a lot more vocal and open about the stuff that they're making. That was like when they also said that they hired Aaron for like to help in that stuff like that, right? Pretty sure. I mean, he'd already been hired for a while before they announced that they were doing it, but it was mentioned it during. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was like I remember it was it was during that first not below decks, the first broadcast, the first On the Horizon broadcast where they talked about sort of the new approach or the renewed approach to open development, and I've literally found the list pretty quickly of what we can expect from open development. And it says like in the future you can expect things like developer diaries and sneak peeks, interviews with devs, a relaunch of the Ghost Ship Games newsletter, and I think that's obviously intended there to include all of the other things in that list as well. So this was actually essentially announced last October, essentially announced almost a year ago. But that tells you a lot about what's changed internally, especially as far as Rocore goes, because I think there's probably a reason why. Well, we know obviously it got delayed, and I think that's also probably delayed the newsletter as well, in a sense. Where it's just like, I don't want to start a newsletter now. With just now development's got shifted back like by a year. I don't want to start the newsletter now. And it's like, all right, fair enough. I wouldn't want to if I was in his position. But yeah, I think we're fine. It's not even a think. We are finally on the cusp of beginning the journey of seeing what road core is. Basically, I'm not even saying we're going to get like pictures or anything in the first issue of the newsletter, but it's going to be important. It's not. I don't think it's going to be like the first Below Decks, for example, which was about the last Oktoberfest hat. If you remember the bucket hat. Do you remember that? The first Below Decks. I think the newsletter is going to be a pretty far cry from that. I think it's going to be inherently quite important and informative, and that's definitely what I want right now. It's just information. Any that you can give, I'll take scraps. Which is why you'd imagine that I'd be watching the dev streams like closely, but I don't. But I do check the dev Q&A article whenever it's updated, basically. So I'm a studious fellow, always making sure I know exactly what's going on. But that's the thing. Yeah, I don't know exactly how you're intended to sign up for the newsletter though. But I guess I'll just have to wait until Monday and then just file through every possible avenue I can imagine. I mean, I think they said it should be on the Ghost Ship website. It wasn't on the day that they first talked about it, but don't worry. As long as I can find a way in, you will all be informed about the newsletter, basically, unless they send me a cease and desist.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I think they'd only do that if there's like a paywall behind it, which is unlikely. But
it is. Well, yeah, but why? See, yeah, it's extremely unlikely. That's not the kind of thing that they would do in any context. Paywall in the newsletter? I mean, they wouldn't do that because, first of all, I don't think they would ever expect people to. Would a newsletter being paywalled imply that people who have it are expected to not share the information? Because that's not what a newsletter is. A newsletter's not like secret information, just because people are paying for it. It's not like when you sign up for the Lego Club magazine. It doesn't mean you can't give your Lego Club magazine to someone else. It's yours.
Yeah, but if you then like screenshotted every page or scanned every page, posted it online for everyone to read, you might have a bit of a problem with that. But I don't think that's real. That Ghost Ship would give a shit. I'm just saying, if there was a paywall, that's the only chance that you would get a knock at your door. Aaron's there with a gun, pointing it at your face, and he says, "If you read out anything I write one more fucking time, I will end you." And then he pulls the trigger anyway, just because rage takes him over. And there goes
yeah,
Harry.
well, unfortunately, he didn't realise that I had my Aaron gun ready because I've been waiting for this moment. I've literally my house is like it's like Home Alone. it's just filled with
specific.
Traps.
Like the traps only go off if someone's.
Everything in the house is designed to work exclusively against Dutch people.
But he's not Dutch.
No, he's not. He's also not Danish, which is actually what they are. I meant to say Danish. So
Aaron is actually he's
actually safe. He's actually safe. Yeah, he's actually. And he's the one who's American to my house. Well, look, if there is a paywall, frankly, if there's anything that the Barrel Vision Trust Fund is for, it's going to be paying for the newsletter. So if I'm not allowed to make videos on it, then there's clearly a problem. But that's unlikely. But I will say, what we have now is an opportunity to have an actually for once short and sweet podcast. Which means we can move on to the final segment of this episode, which is male, which is
and female. God. And non-binary as well. I shouldn't have made this joke. I've really dug a hole here.
You haven't
I don't know
dug
any
a
more
hole.
of those.
Look, I'll get you out. So what I did last week, I put out a post which was basically just like podcast question thread, and the reason why I did that is because I learned from the last episode that we did. I feel like that episodes that are devoted to comments are, I imagine, first of all, they're kind of tough to get through, and I imagine they're also tough to get through. In a way, they're quite dense, and even if we've asked for the comments beforehand, like made a post, for example, unfortunately, and I would say this is a bit more on us than it is the comments to an extent. It's kind of hard for us to.
No, we should blame the comments.
No, well, you can. I'm not going to. I'm blaming the concept of comments. They're just they're dense in a way that questions kind of aren't. Where even though the intention is to get some kind of conversation out of them, they don't inherently prompt it. Whereas a question, for example, is always going to be shorter in nature and is going to inherently demand conversation. But even if it doesn't, we would still provide an answer, and therefore the question asker would get something out of it. So the idea is that questions should be more basically a win-win, where it doesn't really matter if we don't like spend an hour talking about your question, we're still going to answer it. So that will actually be, hopefully, a thing we do for every episode. I think we do the podcast infrequently enough to justify that, and it's not like we get a huge number of questions anyway. So it should work out. And the first batch is a very small batch. We've got 2 questions, or 3 technically, but from 2 people. And they're pretty short and sweet. We'll start with the guy who asked the singular question, though. And obviously, depending on the situation, it could spiral into being a very long one. But obviously, we've kind of done this kind of thing before in like drawing streams, actually. Because the first question comes from Certified Roe Butler, who asks, if you got the opportunity to design one new weapon, primary or secondary, for any class, what would it be, and what role would it serve that differs from the other weapons? So a pretty blockbuster question, really, like a big ticket question. If you could add any new weapon, what would it be? A question that we kind of answered in practice almost with certain live streams that we've done in the past, I would say.
Yeah, we have designed like 2 different guns, but would we say that they were the guns we wanted to see the most?
Well, I was going to ask you that question. I mean, I know I actually have an answer though, and I've had an answer for a while. I know exactly what I want, and you're gonna like it because of the class. I don't know why. I want the Thunder Gun from Zombies, from Black Ops Zombies. I want a weapon that is basically the Thunder Gun, and I want it to be a driller primary. Yeah. What was that? Did you almost hit him or something?
He jumped.
Yeah, and basically, I just like the idea of, because obviously when it comes to driller, and this is something that has literally been thought about since before we even got the 3rd generation of weapons. It's just like driller is inherently seen as the this elemental class, especially in terms of his primary weapons. And so far, he still aligns with that. He also kind of aligns with the concept of fantasy archetypes in a way, of like magic elements, where, or even just RPG elements. Corrosion is definitely one of them. The trifecta when it comes to games is always fire, ice, and then honestly, it kind of is either corrosion or electricity, isn't it? Very often. So a lot of people are like, oh, I hope Driller gets like a Tesla gun, like a big electricity gun, like the Wonder Wolf from Zombies.
Winston from Overwatch. Shut the fuck up. And I always think, no, I don't actually like the idea of it being electricity. I want air, just pure air. And instead of them just adding an element they already have using mechanics they would already have, Harry wants this entire new fucking thing, which I assume is a completely new element that will require some new technical bullshit that will allow them to like ragdoll.
Yeah, that is literally the entire concept. So what I'm actually saying is, beyond the weapon, I want the ability to send like grunts flying and see their bodies like flop around, and not just because they killed them. It'd be cool if they were dead, and they probably would die from this, but that's not inherently the concept. So the Thunder Gun has always just been or basically something that is obviously it wouldn't be called that, but something that is the thunder gun. That's always just been set in my heart. Aside from the rocket rifle, which
Yeah, but that's not even in your heart because they put it there. The potential of it existing.
well, that's not my fault. That's not.
No, you want my one now
Well, you got
because
to.
I've thought about
You've
it.
got to come up with something.
It is also a driller primary, but I like, which I brought up Overwatch for a reason. Roadhog, the big fella, he has like a scrap shotgun basically. That is what I want, and it's basically for bleeding. So I want a bleeding status effect.
You just
in
no
the
no no
game.
no. Okay. You can't. You just gave me shit for trying to add a new something, and you're like, I want to add bleeding. You're a
In all
cunt.
fairness, there is a difference between a status effect that will just do a slightly different type of damage,
Uh-huh.
and completely reworking the way that ragdolling and like entities existing while alive. I feel like there's a gap there, and my side of things is just adding a big AOE kind of blah, like a wave, more than it is like an actual shotgun shot. It'll be more like a own of effect, basically.
But it'd be like
That
it'd just be
yeah,
it'd be visualized through individual pieces, but
just
that's
a
not inherently how
huge
it
wave.
works. It's not in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then that it makes them all bleed, and bleed does something unique. Um, I'm thinking it would like stack on damage, but that's actually not that new of a thing anymore. They kind of got that
Yeah,
with some
but
of the new stuff.
conductive thermals doesn't like it's not inflicting its own stacking damage over time. It does increase the amount of damage over time that other effects do, but a bleed thing could still technically be unique. Like
I was thinking
not
of something else. Something
oh
else that
oh
stacks.
neuro corrosive catalyst. Right for
Yeah,
the
that.
Sabata one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
makes more sense, really. I've never used the other one, but I've used that quite a
Well, one
lot.
of them's a bit more on my mind than the other. Just out of
Yeah,
the recency bias, you know.
yeah, but it's incorrect. That one doesn't matter. No one cares about it. It's the Sabata
They
one that's
definitely
important.
do. They definitely... That thing
No,
actually
it's an
got buzz.
insignificant compared to the Sabata mod. All right, but yeah, no, it's not like that kind of. Where I guess it would have like a random chance of applying certain amounts. Maybe it does have pellets within that range, but it's an absolute shite ton. And like if one gets hit by a ton of pellets, it'll have like 20 bleed and die quite quickly.
Mm.
Something like that is probably my pick for the primary. And it might have an alternate firing mode where it gets more range or something, like a choke on it, or it could be an overclock. Point is, we both want another driller primary. That's the moral of the story, because that's where the fun is.
Yeah.
That's where it resides.
I mean, if
in Driller's
I can
primary.
raise like just another one that would probably be a Driller primary as well. It's also another one that completely breaks the current way the game works, because I definitely want a weapon that like picks up terrain and shoots it, and I think everyone does basically, to an extent. I don't think there's anyone who was like, "Ugh, no, terrible idea." But then it sort of gets awkward. It's like, "Oh, would you like make that actually mechanically complex, where it bases it off the terrain that you pick up?" It's like, no, that'd probably make it too complicated, and there'd be like biome like sort of dependencies and things. So no, so that idea kind of falls apart a little bit. I definitely want to be able to pick up enemies and shoot them at other enemies. So a gravity gun.
I think the whole terrain thing, that should just be the alternate driller like equipment of either or, where it can like pick up and manipulate terrain. Probably more than that than a weapon.
Well, yeah, a gravity gun tool would make more sense, where you could even pick up players with it and throw them around.
Yeah, that would be a very good idea to give to driller.
Maybe for road core.
You just grab the scout, propel him towards I don't know, the nearest C4, switch to it and detonate. that'll end well for everyone involved.
Yeah, I didn't think about it in that way. I didn't think about the fact that you're all fucking psychopaths. Sorry.
We're not psychopaths. You deserve it. And by you, I mean any scout mate.
Yeah, am I gonna have to get the door?
Let's find out.
No, I'm not. He
Hooray!
pushed it through the door. All right. Question number 2. Obviously, the last two both questions come from the same guy. From Mr. Cheese 8097. Writes in first. If you discovered a new mineral, what would you name it? I.e., if you could, what sort of mineral would you add to DRG? I've got an answer. Fucking Expedite. Fucking Expedite. And that's
just
it.
the new one.
Yeah, that's the point. We just so strongly assumed that it would be introduced in season 5 in some way, and it was just completely absent. And they somehow managed to come up with a couple other things like Morkite seeds and just the core stone itself. And it's like, how is none of this Expedite? How have you achieved this? So I would add Expedite just to spite the development process of Rocore.
My new mineral would come in the form of a plant that you pick up, like all the others, but it's shinier and harder. And so I can have more things to pick up in the caves. And it'll be called Chlorophyte. Because that is original and new.
Hatred. That could be like something that's used to make though, like drinks. I do like the idea of a special ingredient though. I really do like the idea of some way to be manually brewing the daily specials, and it would be like a very rare plant like that, basically.
That's a barley bulb.
No. I said manually, not based on which ones.
Manually.
All right, next question. The final question is, well, yeah, also from Mr. Cheese, as we knew. Second, and on a more serious note, how long do you guys think you're going to do Barrel Vision? No longer. We're done.
Yeah, this is the last day. I'm retiring to pet my cat professionally. This is it. This is my life now. I can't keep up during Barrel Vision.
It's crazy that you haven't sought out like cat sitting.
What?
You should be a cat sitter.
I don't want to sit on a cat. That would hurt them.
Oh god!
Evil.
So what's surprising is that there's actually a really simple answer to this question, and the answer is as follows. We've practiced this. I practiced it in the mirror actually. We're going to do Barrel Vision as long as Ghost Ship is still a company, and as long as they haven't put out something that we somehow can't stand. That's basically it.
As long as we continue to be as passionate for whatever they're doing as we currently are, there's no real reason to stop. Considering it seems like we're never going to reach the point of stopping. Worst case scenario, we're just going to somehow make even less videos, right? Maybe in a dark day where they're doing nothing for like 5 years somehow, we'll still probably make a video like once per month or something, right?
Yeah.
Like, as long as they're still up.
I just think you should just look at how things have been, especially I wouldn't say especially over the last few months because obviously season 5 was so great, but maybe a bit before that. The fact that we haven't stopped at any point so far shows that we're clearly not going to, because especially given that I think it's about to start getting better as well. So I don't think we're in a position to be like, I think it's time to hang up the cape. No.
Yeah.
I think the cape's about to get a fresh coat of paint, so we're going to be wearing it for a lot longer, I think.
Yeah. I think this does depend if we like the new fresher color of paint or whatever, right? If we don't like Rocore somehow for some reason, Considering, as far as I'm concerned, I'm probably gonna like Roll Core more than Deep Rock.
Yeah.
Like that is very much on the table. The only problem is that I'm probably going to have to play it on PC, and I hate playing on PC. That's the only problem, which is a big problem. But as long as if I can use the controller on there, it'll be fine. But the point is, we'll be all right, and we'll go in for we'll be in next year, at least when they actually launch it. About now, maybe, hopefully, ideally.
Yeah. The short and suitably ambiguous answer is this. We'll just do it as long as we can. Basically, it's as simple as that.
Is an evergreen. We would never give it up. That's my to someone that goes ships accent. Point is
we welcome back to the On Horizon broadcast. I'm Mikkel Martin. That's not very nice. It's not very.
Yeah, I never want to do it a specific person, just general.
And hey guys, I'm Aaron Hathaway of Ghost Ship Games.
His actual last name.
Yeah.
Do you know his last name?
I do know his last name.
You are weird.
I hope that's okay to say. Obviously, it's available on the Ghost Ship website. I'm not revealing any private information. That's technically public information.
Memorize the entire log of Ghost Ship employees. You sick man.
Oh, I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to do. I'm going to check the website to see if there's a way to sign up for that newsletter yet. I don't know. I guess I'll just have to wait for Monday. But I think, surprisingly enough, and look, I mean, we're done. We got through everything, so that means it's time to end it. But I mean, aside from that one time that the podcast was actually a complete disaster, that was like, really, we shouldn't have even put it out. It's actually the shortest episode.
That feels like we've done so. What's a topic do you think would spark an argument that would last like an hour?
Well, biscuits, but I mean, it's not really the time for that.
Yeah, more Deep Rock related, and plus that doesn't work because you don't argue back. You sigh, look at me with complete hatred, and then move on. Like that wouldn't work. See that look and sigh. He just did it right there. But
actually, what we do have to do, we have to get to 1 hour and 10 minutes. So we've got 3 minutes to go.
Right. I would say perk rework, but we've probably milked that too much. That's the thing. It's just there's not many more things to complain about in the game. They're ticking too many boxes. I mean, even the Sabata, I can now at least use one build on it, which was, a nice change.
What was I using that for recently? I was using that for something. I think it's when I was practicing for the last Driller video I did. I was using Sabata, and yeah, I mean, I sort of came to the already apparent conclusion, like the conclusion I'd already come to before, but I think I actually do hate it. I think I do hate the Sabata. I mean, I'm sorry. Just,
I can't stand, like, the Tranquilizer rounds. I think it's fucking dreadful. Like, a complete waste of time and energy. The, like, ammo or anything like that, those overclocks, fucking dreadful. What are the other two unstables? I mean, one's exploding reload, which...
automatic fire. People like that one, actually.
Yeah, well, automatic fire is, like, mid at best. It tries to make it fine, but it's still ultimately the Sabata, and so it fails. But explosive reload with the sludge pump on like main and the chemical fucking neuro bullshit rounds that we mentioned earlier, those three and the double shot, all those together, good time. Honestly, one of the best things on Driller.
Well, I mean, it was at the very least when they did the Sabata overhaul / rework. At the very least, they only made good. Every change was good. I'll give them that. They only made good changes. I mean, that's something I do think about sometimes because I don't I don't think they saw any essential enough to jam them into season 5. But overall, season 5 was clearly a case of they didn't really have any room to do sort of generalized weapon balancing. But I still think there will be at least one or two more like weapon overhauls in the future. And look, something that I think we've kind of faced the truth of this at some point in the past. I'm not sure when, but I think we've realized now that the Zukovs kind of suck. I actually kind of think they're they're easily Scout's worst weapon, which by the way, part of that journey of coming to accept that is also the actual journey of the boomstick becoming good.
We were never wrong about the boomstick. They just radically improved it in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I genuinely really like the boomstick now.
Yeah, fire still holds like a strong stranglehold on that tier, really, though. Still, that's still the problem, right?
Yeah, but it's not quite as bad as the Peachy now.
Yeah, it's slightly less needed for a couple of them, right? Like, well, mainly double barrel really doesn't gain much from it, right? Like, basically doesn't that much.
Well, you see, it kind of does somehow. It doesn't. It probably shouldn't, but it somehow feels like it does. It's probably not as essential as it is in other cases, but it's not even just double. Like double barrel's great, but what double barrel does is now that you have a overclock on that weapon, that basically just turns it into a close range grenade launcher. And it's still really good at single target. In fact, that's what it's used mainly for anyway. But just the fact that that's there kind of makes a lot of the other overclocks better as well, because they're more unique choices in contrast as well. Like mainly jumbo shells and shaped shells, which is the accuracy one. Both of those overclocks now feel pretty good and worth using as well. So I just want to give credit to Ghost Ship for basically sort of accidentally reworking the boomstick over time. I guess not really accidentally, but the fact that it's kind of been reshaped, certainly in our eyes, but not from a direct overhaul, just from sort of these significant changes that take place completely separately from each other, you know? And I think that's kind of neat, to be honest. I think that's pretty cool. And the EPC needs some work as well. If you wanted.
Yeah, it's just like normal charge shot. That's really the sore spot.
It's a massive sore spot.
You can't justify picking like area damage really at all ever. I'm pretty sure, and you can't justify overcharger, but all because it just kind of blows on its own naturally.
Yeah, honestly, like overcharger like it's not even a bad idea anymore. Like Driller has like enough like ways primary weapon wise to get like strong single target damage where
overcharger was never even strong single target damage. It was never even that.
That's not the point. The point is like Driller has enough options now in its primaries where you can definitely justify to take overcharger and just turn it into an actual thing. Like just bump the numbers up so it can be really strong. But there is a cool aspect of the charge shots that kind of forgotten is that they have a direct damage element. Like EPC charge shots do direct like as much direct damage as they do area damage. So the concept of actually pushing the envelope for overcharger specifically, where not only could it be a really good like turning the EPC into like an actual like good like grenade launcher type weapon, you could also just turn it into something that's going to like delete frozen enemies, for example, because they get frozen bonus as well, I think, from the direct damage. So yeah, the EPC could definitely be better as well. But I think that's enough. That's enough scrounging. I think we're basically there. The actual we've never had to like do this before because it's always been much easier to get sort of past this point. But the original sort of requirement that I set out for myself in my head was an hour and a quarter, and we're a minute off that right now.
Finding some new thing, and
we don't need
like
to.
A couple minutes.
Yeah, we did, but we don't need to now though. We don't need to now. We can bring this to a close. So, as always, if you enjoyed this episode of the Battle Vision podcast, I'm sure more of you finished it than usual. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And of course, if you want to stay on top of everything to do with Rocore and Deep Rock Galactic. I don't know why I said Rocore first. Rocore and Deep Rock Galactic. then click the bell as well. And of course, big thank you to our one and only still member, Box Fox Scoot, who I think we actually forgot to mention last time. Sorry, Scoot. But yeah,
You missed the beginning or something.
yeah, maybe.
Like,
Maybe. And also, just want to point everyone, if you've been looking at me the entire time, during this outro because I'm the one talking, look over there and you'll see a delicate creature.
boy. I do like. I assume you've seen the meme where it's like, "Oh, look at my black cat," and then it's just a picture of like a bunch of rooms, and they just have a black like circle in them. It's just there's nothing there, which is very accurate as you can see. It's just there's nothing here. There's no shape. It's just darkness. Oh my. Oh, as you appeared, my laptop needed batteries and it got darker. I feel like